You know, every chapter of Oshi no Ko brings with it so much new information that it is actually unbelievable. What's Aqua cooking? What's on those DVDs? Why does Ai have black stars? Why is Frill Shiranui working for Kamiki? So many questions. This video will be quite long, so let's just get into it and start with Aqua's plan. So chapter 116 gave us a lot more insight into Aqua's plan, and I would say there is enough new information for us to form a fairly accurate image of it. When mentioning the film, Frill Shiranui said that this whole plan relies on whether Ai forgives the father or not, whether the actress who portrays Ai can understand her intentions or not. So, by having an actress play through Ai's life, she would be able to understand Ai and therefore understand whether she would forgive the father or not. Now, so far, only Akane was shown to portray Ai to a mirroring degree. She's been doing it throughout the whole manga and she managed to uncover so much information about Ai that Akane might as well be her reincarnation. Akane seems to be the most optimal choice to play Ai. On the other hand, we have Ruby, who still sees Ai through her fangirl lenses, but who considered the idea that Ai might have lied and played the role her whole life, the same way Ruby herself played the role as Sarina, and the same way she plays the role as Ruby. The difference between Ruby and Akane is that Ruby is determined to get revenge on her father. Now, do you see Aqua's intentions? If Akane played the role of Ai, she would 100% portray her perfectly, but she might conclude that Ai would forgive Hikaru. But with Ruby playing that role, well, even if she somehow comes to the same conclusion, she still wants her father dead no matter what, to get revenge for Ai and for Goro. Her determination is a lot more ample because it also includes Goro. Now, you may be wondering why wasn't Ruby Aqua's choice from the beginning? And other than Aqua's overprotective nature for his sister, given that he hasn't even told Ruby about Ai's wish, it also comes down to Akane's promise to help catch and kill Hikaru. If you recall what happened in chapter 98, Akane figured out the father's identity and took matters into her own hands. She intended to murder him in order to protect and save Aqua. Of course, at the end of that chapter, Aqua pushed Akane aside entirely and pushed her out of danger. But that didn't make Akane give up on her promise entirely. Therefore, when she would have read the script and realized what Aqua was trying to do, she would do whatever it took to get Hikaru killed. However, Gotanda had a different idea. After he met Ruby again and he saw the resemblance between her and Ai, he wanted her to play the role. He thought that Ruby could portray and understand Ai's true feelings, therefore she would also be able to tell whether or not Ai would forgive Hikaru. But Aqua had a different plan. Based on what Frill Shiranui said, I am 100% sure Aqua requested Shiranui to make it so that Ruby gets the role of Ai. If we look at chapter 113 when Ruby is auditioning for the role, we can see that it doesn't go great. Her acting abilities are lackluster, Kaburagi is not happy, and we see Aqua listening on their conversation. In the next panel, Shiranui suddenly gets a message from an inside source, I wonder who could that be, and the following day she goes on pursuing Ruby about that role. She makes it so that the other choices, her and Akane, would drop out, letting Ruby get the role. That way Ruby would portray and convey Ai's true feelings, but she would also cooperate with Aqua and conclude that Ai wouldn't forgive Hikaru. Now, whether Ruby will be the one to play the role of Ai in the end is not 100% guaranteed, especially with Akane going up against Aqua. Akane is an award-winning actress. Her playing the main role would definitely boost the film's viewership and earnings, and that's all Kaburagi talks about. We'll see who ends up playing the role of Ai. Regardless, this is just one part of Aqua's plan, a section of it that doesn't paint the whole picture. To figure out the rest, we need to first have a look at some DVDs. In chapter 112, we find out that Ai gave Gotanda, the director, 2 DVDs to pass on to her children when they turn 15 years old. According to her, they are some video letters addressed to her children. Now, it might not seem all that important, but this little interaction between Ai and Gotanda raises a few very interesting questions that might completely change our view of Ai. First, what's the content of those DVDs? Second, why was Gotanda supposed to give the DVDs to Ai's children when they turned 15 specifically? And third, did Ai make those DVDs anticipating that something would happen to her? And let's start from the top with the first question. What's the content of those DVDs? One thing I can say with certainty is that there isn't any important information about Hikaru specifically in those DVDs. We know that Aqua has seen the content of those DVDs, or at least his DVD, around the beginning of the main story, anywhere between chapter 10 and chapter 18. Chapter 18 is when the twins enter high school, which would put both of them at the age of 16. Throughout the manga, Aqua is trying to find his father based on the information we know from chapter 9, the conclusion Aqua himself reached towards the end of the chapter. Nothing new was added after he watched his DVD, therefore there shouldn't be any important information about Hikaru specifically in that DVD. We know, however, that based on what Aqua saw in that DVD, he decided to team up with Gotanda and make a film about Ai, presumably revealing what has happened behind the scenes. In chapter 110, we see Aqua talking to Ai's grave, saying he will fulfill her real wish, implying that the film, and therefore the content of the DVDs, will fulfill her real wish. Now, it's important to point out that Ai gave each one of her children a DVD, which was a single video split into two, but only Aqua has seen the content of both. The video we see at the beginning of chapter 10 is most likely Ruby's DVD. We know that Ruby hasn't seen Aqua's, most likely because Aqua didn't mention the existence of a second DVD. We get a confirmation for that in chapter 112, when Gotanda directly asks Ruby about it. Based on that, we can safely assume that Ruby's DVD didn't reveal anything controversial or had any sensitive information on it. After all, her behavior and attitude didn't change whatsoever between before and after she watched her DVD. So the real question here is, what's on Aqua's DVD? Before we can answer this question, we need to understand who was the real Ai, or at least paint a picture of it based on the information we have. Fortunately enough, it's not that hard to figure it out. From Ai's behavior in the flashback of chapter 110 and from her conversation with Gotanda, we can safely assume that Ai has not only lied in the show business industry as a way to build her perfect image, but she has always lied, even when she was supposed to be herself, even when she was alone with her children. She tells Gotanda that if he were to see her real self, the one who isn't covered with lies, the difference would be so massive that he wouldn't be able to use the footage for his documentary. But when he told her to show herself anyway, she went ahead with it. She was ready to show the public who the real Ai was through the Be Komachi documentary. In chapter 8, Ai said that she doesn't know what love truly means. She has never been loved and she has never experienced love before. She has lied to her fans so much that the words, "I love you," have lost any meaning to her. She's afraid to tell her children that she loves them because that might be a lie. She always said the right things that would make people happy, but she never spoke her mind. If she broke her perfect image, would her fans still love her? Would the people close to her still love her? Would her children still love her? Ai kept her true self hidden because she was afraid she might not be loved if that self was revealed. This would suggest that Ai's wish was to show her true self and be loved for who she is, not for the image of herself she created, something that she wished for even before she became an idol. This is also supported by Ruby. Interestingly enough, Ruby idolizes this perfect image of Ai. Everything about Ai is pure and genuine in Ruby's eyes. She almost cut ties with Aqua when he revealed to the public that Ai had children because that affected Ai's perfect image. An idol having children? Unspeakable. This is why I think Aqua didn't share with Ruby the content of his DVD. If Ai revealed her true self and that was far from what Ruby imagined, then it could affect her. Since Aqua is overprotective of Ruby, he wouldn't want to hurt her. As of the latest chapter, she begins to consider the idea that Ai might have played a role, that she might have hidden something all this time, the same way she did in her previous life as Sabrina and throughout her new life. This is why I think it's almost guaranteed that Ruby will come around and figure out Aqua's real goal, then they would both go ahead with the film. So far we have established that Ai's wish was to reveal her true self and drop the lies. So that's it, right? That's the content of Aqua's DVD and that's what the film will be about, right? Demasking a long gone idol. Not quite. See, Aqua's conversation with Kaburagi in chapter 110 is particularly interesting. So, Kaburagi initially rejects the script for Ai's film because he says, and I quote, "There's too much speculation about the incident. Have you gathered evidence properly? One wrong move and you might get sued." The curious thing here is, what information could Aqua reveal that would get him sued? Sued for what? Defamation? Who could possibly sue him? Ai worked under Ichigo Production. Any damage to Ai's image could only trigger a lawsuit from Ichigo's production or a family member. I can't imagine Miyako doing that, and definitely no family either. Therefore, the information that could get Aqua sued cannot be about Ai's image. I thought that maybe Aqua would reveal something about the showbiz industry which would make some companies sue him, but it doesn't make sense. I wasn't forced or manipulated by the industry to lie. She chose to lie, so it's not that either. What's publicly known about the incident Kaburagi mentions, implying Ai's death, is that a fan murdered her. The only controversial reveal here would be that somebody was behind the murder, that the fan was made to commit the crime by somebody else. There's no other information that would get Aqua in trouble, right? Now, if Aqua were to reveal that Hikaru Kamiki was behind the murder, that would require proper evidence and would definitely come with a lawsuit. Kaburagi says that no major distribution would support the film. If the film would simply reveal that Ai's idol persona was just an act, then why would that be a no for any distribution company? Demasking a famous idol would definitely be a top pick for anybody, especially when the information about her children was made public. The film isn't just about revealing Ai's real self, not with the emphasis put on evidence. And evidence is quite interesting because Aqua tells Kaburagi that Ai herself said that, meaning the information that would be revealed about the incident, implying that Ai gave that away in one of those DVDs she gave her children. Therefore, the film will most likely reveal Ai's true self and also reveal the real culprit behind the murder. Now, whether revealing the culprit is what Ai wanted or not doesn't matter because this is what Aqua chose to do. This is Aqua's way of getting revenge. What I will say with certainty is that Ai showed her true self in Aqua's DVD and she revealed some minor information about his father, enough for Aqua to be able to link the father to her death with the knowledge she currently has. I'm saying this because in chapter 8, Ai wanted to tell the kids about their father, because they've reached a strange conclusion regarding the topic. Of course, she wanted Hikaru himself to come visit, but when that was not possible, I think she put that information on the DVD. Not that their father is Hikaru Kamiki, but something about him. I don't think Ai thought negatively about Hikaru. I don't think that whatever she revealed about him in the DVD was meant to be negative, because here's something interesting. According to Kaburagi, Ai found love at Lalalie. We know that's where Ai met Hikaru and she presumably fell in love with him because he saw and accepted the real Ai. Remember that when Ichigo first met Ai, when she was a middle schooler, she said that she had never experienced love before. She was unable to love. Whether Hikaru genuinely loved her or not doesn't really matter as long as Ai believed she was loved for who she was. It's further supported by the fact that she kept in touch with Hikaru even after they broke up. If she didn't have any positive feelings for him or if she considered him a threat, then she wouldn't have called him. She wouldn't put her children in danger for no reason. And this begs the question, did Ai make and give those video letters to Gotanda because she believed something would happen to her? Now, we know Hikaru murdered her, most likely, but what's important is whether she knew he would come for her or not, whether she knew Hikaru was capable of murder or not. Based on what we just went through, it's not likely that she believed Hikaru would be a threat. After all, why would she call him and reveal her location if she knew he was a threat? Maybe she believed he had changed, that he softened because of the kids? Well, clearly not, otherwise she wouldn't have given Gotanda the DVDs. But here's what doesn't line up. Just look at Ai's outfit from chapter 112 when she gave the DVDs to Gotanda and compare it to her outfit in chapter 8 when she called her ex. It's the same outfit. Given that we don't see Ai wearing the same outfit twice in the first 10 chapters, I will go ahead and say that she gave the DVDs to Gotanda after or just before she called her ex, which would suggest that Ai was expecting to die, right? Expecting to die because she called Hikaru. In the same chapter 8, we learned that Ai never knew love, and she truly wanted someone or something to love. She believed that if she became an idol, she would be able to love her fans. She then believed that if she became a mother, she would be able to love her children. Now this is super interesting, because if we dial it a bit backwards to when she first met Hikaru at Lalalie, according to Kaburagi that's where Ai found love, but we know that isn't actually true. Ai has never found love. She never loved Hikaru, she never loved her fans, and she believed she couldn't love her children. Until the very end, of course. But at the time she met Hikaru, she desperately wanted someone or something to love. Therefore, what if she wanted to love Hikaru but she never could? She says that she thought if she became a mother, she would be able to love her children. This means that she wanted to love Hikaru but she never could. However, she still had children with him. And from her own words, this would imply that she was the one who wanted children, not Hikaru. This information might just pull a 180 on this whole situation, because if Ai wanted children but Hikaru didn't, then Ai influenced Hikaru to get her pregnant. We know that Hikaru wanted to put an end to her pregnancy back in chapter 1, therefore he didn't want the kids. It was a one-sided thing. Maybe it was due to what happened to Ai Himekawa. And so, what if Ai manipulated Hikaru into getting her pregnant? In chapter 9, Ai describes herself as not innocent, unfair and dirty, unable to love someone, which means it's not impossible for her to be selfish and choose to go ahead with the pregnancy despite Hikaru wanting the opposite. This would also explain why Ai didn't get an abortion, given that she was a minor and given that it would affect her career heavily. She wanted children so she could have someone to genuinely love. This doesn't mean Hikaru is innocent, he's certainly not, but it means Ai is not innocent either. Just something to keep in mind. Now back to Ai anticipating her death. Here's what's odd. If Ai was expecting to go cold because of Hikaru, then there were so many measures she could have taken to protect herself. One word to Ichigo Saito about her being in danger, even if she didn't specify Hikaru, and he would have taken real good care of her. It's also odd if she expected to die and did nothing about it, leaving her baby children behind just like that. The only reasonable explanation that's left is that Ai knew she was going cold soon, but she couldn't do anything to prevent that. But is that even possible? Now, supernatural isn't exactly my most desirable path because it's so unpredictable. I would have rather preferred if I could explain this without involving the supernatural, but after thinking about this for a while, I cannot find any other way to justify Ai's actions. Why would she make and give those video letters to Gotanda if she knew she would still be around her children when they turn 15? The only explanation is that she knew she was in some kind of danger and might go cold at any moment, that she might not be there when her children turn 15. And we can easily link this to Hikaru. Based on Ai's outfit, she likely gave the DVDs to Gotanda after or before she called Hikaru. And we certainly know that he was behind the murder, so the big question is whether or not Ai knew Hikaru would come after her. If she knew, then why didn't she take any preventive measures? Like, I don't know, change apartments, change her location. If the reveal of her current address caused her death, then she could have easily changed locations after calling Hikaru, after she was in danger. There were at least a few days between her calling Hikaru and the day of the murder. She could have taken preventive measures. And so the only reasonable explanation that's left here is that she knew she was in danger but couldn't do anything about it. Her death was imminent, and if that's true, then what could have possibly made her death imminent? Something supernatural, right? But this raises a lot more questions than it answers. Did Ai knew about the supernatural? Did she have any contact with anything supernatural? It doesn't seem all that plausible. The only way I could see this being a thing, and I'm going on a massive speculation, is that Ai made some sort of a pact or a deal with a deity when she was still in the orphanage. Like, if she wished to be talented and famous, but as a prize, she wouldn't be able to love. And so when she would genuinely love, she would lose her life. Sounds stupid, right? Well, it kind of is. Although, it would work in our case, since the moment I realized she does love her children, even though she didn't outright say it, was when she was killed. It also fits with the fact that I knew she was going cold and couldn't prevent it. How do you fight the supernatural? I'm not saying this is what happened, but given how the supernatural is handled in the series, it's a possibility. Now, when I excluded the possibility of the supernatural being involved in any way, it made me think back on what I said at the end of chapter 8, that she will be lying to her fans, not admitting that she loves her children, because she knows she will pay the price later on. Now, what price is that? If you think she's simply narrating what happens next, her dying to the stalker, because she kept her children hidden away from the fans, then you have to keep in mind that someone cannot narrate their own death. Obviously there are ways around that, but nothing applies in our case. Given that these panels are from Ai's point of view and that she's narrating this section, she cannot narrate her own death. She cannot tell us something that will happen in the near future if she dies right after that thing happened. Which means that this price she's talking about is something she knew she had to pay before Yusuke happened. Now, this led me to believe that she's referring to the documentary Gotanda was filming about Big Komachi, the one where Gotanda was supposed to film the real Ai. We already established that the documentary was going to reveal Ai's true self, or as much of her true self as she wanted to show, so that might be the price she's referring to. The backlash that would come after that documentary went public, which was supposed to happen soon after her performance at the Dome, but we know she didn't make it. And so, if that documentary went public, her real self would be revealed, affecting her image and putting her in danger. We know fans can be very cruel since the Akane incident from Love Now, so it wouldn't be far-fetched for Ai to feel in danger after putting her real self out there. And if that's the case, then it's guaranteed that Ai told Aqua to reveal her children to the public as part of the DVD's content. If her persona had been exposed, then she could have lived a lie-free life, which is what she wanted, what she wished for. The Big Komachi documentary would show that Ai wasn't as innocent as her idol persona suggested, and the reveal of her children would shatter her lies, letting her live the rest of her life lie-free. Or in this case, honor her memory, since she's unfortunately not among the living. Which begs the question, why 15? If Ai was expecting to die at some point before her children turned 15, which, leaving the supernatural aside, was most likely due to the possible outrage of the Big Komachi documentary, then it probably was because they'd be mature enough to understand Ai's true feelings. I'm saying this because around that age, Ai was pregnant. She came from an orphanage, she didn't have the greatest behavior, she didn't know when someone was supposed to grow and mature, and so she thought that 15 would be an ideal age for her children to learn the truth, since that's when she took the step to have children. If I was mature enough to make a big decision at that age, then her children should be mature enough to comprehend Ai's wish. Of course, there could be a lot more to this, but I personally can't seem to find any other link. That being said, as far as the DVD is concerned, we have established that first, Aqua's DVD has information about the real Ai, also that Ai wanted to make public the fact that she has children, and possibly also some information about the father, nothing about Hikaru Kamiki specifically though. Second, it's very likely that Ai was expecting to die, either due to the possible repercussions of the Big Komachi documentary, or due to something related to Hikaru Kamiki, in which case, the supernatural wants to know her location. So based on all of this, it seems Aqua's plan looks something like this. The film will reveal that Ai's idol persona was an act she put up because she didn't understand love, even though she truly wanted to, in a way justifying Ai lying to her fans. She wanted to love them, but she didn't know what love even is. It will reveal that Ai had a relationship with a person from the industry which led to her getting pregnant. Ai went ahead with the pregnancy but kept her children hidden in fear of the repercussions. I think it will also show that by having and loving her children, she would also be able to love her fans, painting this picture where Ai lied but she didn't do it with malice. And then the father comes into play. We have to keep in mind that this film isn't meant to honor Ai. It's meant for revenge. We can most definitely expect the father to be portrayed in the worst light possible. And I strongly believe that based on what the actress who plays Ai decides to do, forgive the father or not, Aqua will reveal his name. That's what's going to set the final pieces in motion. Of course, before that, Hikaru will hurt Akane, which will force Aqua to change his plan. Quote me on that. Anyway, I think this is Aqua's plan on paper. I don't think it will succeed because I'm pretty sure Hikaru will get involved with Akane sooner rather than later, and that will disturb Aqua's plans. But this is the plan on paper. Now, there's still some things I really wanted to talk about, but this video is longer than I wish to edit. Frill Shiranui, very suspicious. Gotanda, very suspicious. Kaburagi can't get any more suspicious than this guy. Ai's true nature is also very interesting. I think there's a possibility she manipulated Hikaru, but I will have to work on that a bit more. I'm also closing in on Kindaichi Toshiro, and I think you'll like what I have discovered about him. But with that being said, thank you for watching.